In this video tutorial, I am going to show you the easiest way to create very high converting email marketing flows for your Klaviyo account. But first and foremost, let's not confuse easy for basic, because we don't do basic around here. In fact, these are the exact email marketing flows that I have personally set up for 106 e-commerce brands and helped them generate a combined total of $80 million plus in tracked revenue. Now, you're probably thinking, what's all the faff about email marketing flows? Aren't they the same as campaigns? What's the difference? I got you. With email marketing flows, these are quite literally the holy grail of your entire email marketing infrastructure. And the reason why is they quite literally work whilst you're sleeping. They do all the heavy lifting to convert a prospect that comes to your store, visits the store, and turns that prospect into a customer. It also helps you turn your customer into a super fan, which is the ultimate goal of any e-com brand, period. So the best way that you can set up these flows so that you can really scale your brand is to ensure that you have the right infrastructure in place, because it's also going to help with stuff like your average order value, the customer lifetime value of your customer, how often people are coming back to your store, how long it takes for them to purchase the first time to the second time, and cutting that time down short so you can have as much cash flow as you want so you can reinvest all of that profit back into your brand. So I've created a dummy account and I'm going to give you all the source. I'm not gatekeeping any of this, and I'm going to reveal everything today. So let's hop in. So the first flow that we are actually going to be focusing on is your welcome flow. This is by far going to be your most potent flow inside your Klaviyo account that is going to drive an obscene amount of revenue. And it goes without saying that this flow needs to be constructed in a way that builds and develops a relationships with prospective customers to turn them into customers for your brand. What we're going to do is we're going to create from scratch, and we're going to name this in a way that is very easy for us to refer to. So typically I like to say welcome flow. Some people say series. And then what you can do is you can have your initial. This is obviously so you can identify, maybe if you want to work with an agency or freelancer, you know who built what. This is the best way to kind of identify that. And I typically like to call these your pre-purchase flows. What's going to happen is once I click create flow, we should get something that looks like this. Now, before I go into this, what I want to do is up on the screen, I'm going to show you a structure that you can use. Again, please make sure that you tailor this to your specific brand. Don't listen to all the hype or the BS about this is the best welcome flow or this is the best flow for XYZ brands. You have to tailor this specifically to your brand. Now, in order for you to do that, you need a reference, and that's what I'm going to give you. So here are the emails that I would recommend. So the first one is to just give people what they signed up for in the first email. So if you're having an incentive on your pop-up, when people land on your website, ideally they will see a pop-up. You're not Gucci, you're not LV, you can't afford to not have a pop-up with an incentive. Whether that incentive is monetary or non-monetary, it doesn't matter. Make sure you use what aligns with your brand. Make sure that you are testing continuously to make sure that the offer that you have is very potent and it makes sense not only for your margins, but it also makes sense for you to be able to convert prospective customers into leads. So that's what you want to do. If you don't want to give a discount, there are other ways that you can turn prospective customers into customers. So the second one is an intro into the brand and brand story. This could also be like a personal note from the founder. If you're a little bit shy, you can create an alias, head of customer success or head of customer happiness or customer happiness manager. We want to have a face to the brand and someone that people know, like, and can trust. The conversion when kind of like introducing these type of aliases or the founder in email flows that I've put together for brands, the results have been insane. Next thing is bestsellers, so all your best-selling products. Then you've got an us versus them comparison. So your USPs, what makes you the literal only choice or what makes you the best choice or the superior choice compared to your competitors. Super important. Then the next thing is going to be social proof through reviews and testimonials, media publications. Then you've got your value-based emails. These can focus on things that your competitors might not be doing and you want to like shine a light on it. So let's say you're a coffee brand and your coffee specifically uses a unique mechanism that makes the coffee taste like vanilla without having to add like vanilla syrup. And this way you can leverage stuff like unique mechanisms and fascinations. Then the next thing is going to be like an ascension offer. So let's say you gave someone 10% off. Once you kind of like nurture them with these emails, you would then say something like, hey, we're upgrading your discount. And then you would have a final reminder email as well. So what we want to do is we want to go to added to list. And we want to select newsletter. Newsletter is essentially going to be like the main list that you have, which is going to feed through like anyone that's coming onto your website and signing up to your email list. And it's really important to maintain a really consistent way of sending out emails by maintaining just one list. You can always create like different segments, which essentially, when you think about it, segments are dynamic, they change, and lists static, they don't change. So it's important that you don't have multiple lists, because when you're sending campaigns or creating flows, you want to make sure that the right people get captured and sent the right messages at the right time. And what you wouldn't want is your different messages kind of just going to the wrong people because you have a million different lists. The next thing is we are going to add a profile filter. And what this is going to do is we're going to make sure that with this profile filter, we're going to be selecting to make sure that anyone that's been added to the list, they have placed order 0 times overall time, because we don't want like new customers coming in through this. We are going to do what someone has done, and then we're going to do placed order, and it's going to be 0 times, and that's going to be overall time. So we're going to save that. Then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to save this as well. So confirm and save. And then we are going to start adding a profile property update. Now, the reason why we're adding this profile property update is that what we don't want to happen, especially just to be safe, we want to make sure that people that are getting this welcome flow is prioritized as the messaging that we want prospective customers to see in order to convert to customers. So what that means is we don't want them to be getting campaigns, and in order to be sure, we need to have the right settings. So once you go to like profile property update, which I dragged here, you can then go to add step, and then you want to create a new property, and the label is going to be active welcome flow or active in welcome flow. It doesn't really matter. What this is essentially is just an identifier for us to be able to know that, okay, whoever is in this flow, we are going to make sure that when we are setting up campaigns, we can exclude this segment of people so that they are not getting campaigns. And then we would just say yes as well. So we're just going to click on save with that one, and we will close that because that is all Gucci. The next thing we are going to do is we are going to be creating the first email. So we're going to drag that in there as well. Let's just say, here's your 10% off. So this is just a subject line and preview line that we can put in there as well. Obviously, this is just a dummy example, so don't take this too literally. And then we'll just label this as well. Then we're going to select the template. So hopefully you have your own kind of like brand guidelines and exactly how you want your emails to look. So what we will do is let's just select any email here, and we're just going to save that. Again, this is just for demonstrational purposes. We will just say, here's your 10% off. End soon, and then we go done. So that is all good. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a time delay. As mentioned, when it comes to time delays, you need to think about the buying cycle of your brand specifically, because what works for one brand is not going to work for another. But ideally, we don't want the welcome flow to be longer than needed or longer than necessary. So for example, if you're a fashion brand, there's no reason why your welcome flow needs to be 40 days long, because at the end of the day, we want to try and drive conversion as quickly as possible, and then aim to have someone purchase the second time as quickly as possible, because then that helps with cash flow and you're able to achieve or reach that lifetime value of that customer a lot quickly. So we're just going to add 1 day here. That's a good day to aim after they have received the first welcome email. We're just going to quickly go back to this email, and I'm going to tell you why in just a second. But ideally, when it comes to this email, we want to make sure that we untick this. So skip recently emailed profiles. This is super important. And then we're just going to go into the email itself. With this specific email, in the URL, there is this unique identifier, and it usually starts after, flow and message. You want to copy and paste that. So we're going to save that as well. And the reason why we are doing that is because we are going to add a conditional split. Essentially is going to be what will allow us to resend this email for anyone that hasn't actually opened it, because we want people to convert at the end of the day. So what we can do just to elevate the welcome flow a little bit, and what we've seen work for hundreds of e-commerce brands that we've worked with, is essentially to resend that email. Now, the way that we're going to do that is we're going to select the conditions here. With the conditions that we've selected, we are going to select what someone has or has not done. And then we're going to click opened email, and we're going to click this filter icon. It should say use message. So this is message. I'll just select that rather than typing it. And we want to do equals basically this identifier of this email, because what we want to do is we want to resend this email, and we need to tell Klaviyo, hey, it's this specific email that if someone has or has not opened, I want you to do this. And we want to select this as 0 times overall time. So we'll select that, and then we will save that. And now the next thing that we want to do is we can close this up. We are just going to duplicate this, so clone it, and then we're going to title this as resend. And the way that we're going to do that is we're just going to put resend here in the title, just as a unique identifier. And when you're doing the resend, you obviously want to have a different subject line and a different preview text, so that you have another opportunity to capture that person's attention. There is no point of resending it with the same subject line and the same preview text. It doesn't make sense. It's counterproductive, so change it. Super important. And also untick skip recently emailed profiles. So we'll select that. So what we do now is we're going to drag this and we're going to put it on this side, because what we are telling Klaviyo at the end of the day is if this person has not opened this email, what we want to do is we want to resend it to them. And this is what a conditional split is. Don't let this become like overwhelming for you or confusing. It's really simple. We're just telling Klaviyo, hey, if someone has carried out this action, let them go down this path. If someone has carried out this action, then let them go down that path. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we are actually going to join this. So click on this, and then you're going to drag it here, and I'll tell you what this does in a minute. What we're basically doing is when we have told Klaviyo that, hey, resend this to anyone that hasn't opened it in the last 24 hours, we still want them to receive the rest of our emails. So in order for us to do that, we need to join that flow so that they can start the path here, where we're going to start adding more emails, and those emails that we discussed in the beginning of the video. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to add a time delay, and for this one we'll do like 1 day as well, and then we'll continue with the rest of our email flows. And what I'm going to do is just drag this here, and this is going to be email 2. Let's title this as well. So what did we name this? This was welcome flow 1. We should actually probably call it welcome email rather than flow. I'm going to actually change these up just now, so they're going to be different in a couple of minutes. So you can see here that I've actually changed these now to welcome email as opposed to welcome flow. So my bad on that. Now I've got email 2. So with this email 2, again, this email, as we spoke about before, we want this to kind of just be like a personal email from the founder. So we're going to go here, founder email, and then make sure you add a subject line and a preview line. And then we want to select a template. For the purpose of this video, we're just going to keep using the same one. You would have your own designed email that makes sense. I'm actually going to fast forward to where we'll have like all the main emails that we need within this flow up until the discount email, because things are going to be a little bit different. So I'm just going to add these, and then as you saw, obviously all I'm doing is adding the time delay. So in this instance, we'll change this to 2 days, and then I'll just probably clone this so I don't have to keep selecting the template. So we'll change that to welcome email 3, and we'll move the time here. So what you want to do is always have the time delay, then the email, time delay, then the email. But essentially, when you get to the point that you have the discount upgrade, like I mentioned, so if you're doing 10% off, you want to kind of get it to 20% off. What you want to do is you want to have the email, and if someone hasn't opened that discount upgrade, similar to what we did here, we want to resend that email. Now, in order for us to do that, we're going to need to have a conditional split. So I'm just going to create another email, and I'm going to call it discount upgrade. Again, this is just for demonstrational purposes. In an ideal world, you would have all the relevant emails that you need in this flow clearly labeled. You want to make sure that you're taking off, skip profiles, have the right subject lines. All of that stuff needs to be implemented. And again, what we'll do is we will just have this as 1. And I'm actually going to change this so that it says, for example, welcome email 5, and we'll call it discount upgrade. So again, just make sure you make all the relevant changes. I might actually just change this to discount upgrade so it's a little bit more visible and you can see it here. What you need to do is add the time delay, and we're going to add a time delay of, let's say, a day. And once we add the time delay, we are literally just going to copy the exact same thing that we did before, which was having the conditional split. We're going to add the conditional split here as well. And with the conditional split, we're going to set the conditions pretty similar to what we had before. Now, in order for us to set it, like I mentioned before, we need to open this and we need to get the email ID. And this is here in the URL. And then what we do is we go back into this conditional split and we need to select what someone has done or not done. And we are going to be going with opened email. And then we will be selecting 0 times overall time. But remember to add the filter here, and this one we will now change this to message, and all we're doing is just copy and pasting that unique identifier of the campaign so that we are telling Klaviyo, hey, for these people that have not opened this email, we want to resend it to them because it's a hot offer at the end of the day. So again, what we can do is we can just duplicate this and we can call this resend. So with that, we're just going to pop that over there. And again, similar to what we did before, we want to make sure that whoever comes into this flow, when they get the resend, they're at least still getting the rest of the emails within this flow. So we just need to click this, hold on to it, and then just drag it here. And that's what it will look like. Now, the next thing that we want to do is we want to send that final email, and we will add another time delay, which is going to be 2 days, just as kind of like a final reminder email. And once we get it to that 2-day point, we want to send the final email. So we'll add that in there. So we'll have this as email 6 and we'll just say final reminder. And again, like I said, just make sure you fill this out and select your template. Unselect this. We'll probably need to select the template actually just very quickly again, and then we're going to click save. And then again, just make sure you fill this out as well. Once we've done that, we're going to actually update the property for the profile of people that are inside this welcome flow, where anyone that is within the welcome flow, we want to get it to a point that once they've received all the messages within the welcome flow, we want to update that tag. Remember the tag that we made here, to make sure that they weren't getting your daily campaigns or weekly campaigns that you send out for your brand. We need to make sure that we update that to let Klaviyo know that, hey, this person has finished going through this flow. Please take that tag off their profile so that they can start receiving campaigns. So what we want to do is get the profile property update and drag that here. And then we're going to click add step and we're going to delete existing property. And what we're going to do is we are going to update that so when that person comes through on here, their profile property changes. And we'll click delete existing property so it's active welcome flow, and we'll save that as well. So once we've saved this, there's one last trick. And the idea is that, look, if someone's been in this flow and they have received like 7 emails and they haven't opened a single email, it could be a number of things. And it could be typically when people have emails that they input into pop-ups, normally a fake email, right? Especially if you're offering the incentive up front. So what they will do is they'll put the fake email, and if you have the incentive on the pop-up, they'll just use it and they'll go. They don't care about your deliverability. They don't care that they're using a spam email address. So it's important that we can put together some measures in order to prevent that long term, where you're just kind of sending emails out to people that are spam emails, and most especially like bots as well. So what we're going to want to do is make sure that if somebody has received, I would say, anything greater than 5 emails and they haven't opened a single one, we want to mark this as likely as spam. And it has to be anyone that's within this welcome flow. First, what we want to do is we want to have essentially a time delay. So we'll drag that. I would say give it about 2 days, because essentially people open emails typically within the first 48 hours. And we want to give this person a chance to at least open one of our emails. If not, then this is where we need to kind of have that conditional split that says, look, if they haven't opened this email, we need to take them out of here fast, because we don't want spam. So we're going to do what someone has or hasn't done. We're going to select opened email. We're going to do is greater than 5, and then we will select since starting this flow. And then we are going to save it as well. And then what we are going to do is we are going to update their property. I'm going to put it on this side because we're basically telling Klaviyo, look, if they've been sent 5 or so emails and they haven't opened at least 5 of them, then it's likely this person is spam, as I mentioned before. So what we're going to do is we're going to create new property. The property label will do likely spam and we'll put it as a Boolean where it's true. Essentially, when you're kind of like sending out campaigns and whatnot, at least you know that it's likely that this person is spam to prevent you from having your emails going into spam folders. So what we'll do when you're done building this is click review and turn on and just set this to live. So what we're going to do now is we're going to head into the next flow, the abandoned cart flow. This is one of the second highest converting email marketing flows that you can set up in your Klaviyo account today. And if it isn't, then you definitely want to stick through the entirety of this video to know exactly what you need to do. And essentially, with this flow being one of the highest converting flows within your email marketing infrastructure, the idea is that you want to move people further down the funnel where they're at abandoned cart, and you want to try and get them to check out and then place their order and turn them into a customer. I speak to 2 to 3 brands every single week, and more often than not, 3 out of those brands are making this mistake. Essentially is selecting the incorrect trigger. One thing that Klaviyo does, which is a bit of a jar, which I'll show you just now, is that when you create the abandoned cart flow, if you put abandon, you can click any one of the abandoned cart flows. It doesn't matter. What I'm trying to do is just show you here, as you can see, that abandoned cart is the name of the flow, but the trigger is checkout started. Completely 2 different objectives and completely 2 different places within the funnel that your customer is in. So this isn't what we want to use. So let's get out of this and let's start from scratch. So we're going to want to name this, have our unique identifier in case there are different people working in here, and just for your kind of like reference to pre-purchased, which is the stage of the funnel. And then we will create flow. And just to again put things into perspective for you, when you are setting this up, if you don't have the right triggers and flow filters, you're essentially costing yourself revenue, because on average 76% of people will abandon their cart. Let's just say you don't even manage to convert all 76% of those people that come on your website and they want to place an order, which is not even normal anyway. Let's just even say half of those customers, so let's say give or take around about 35-37%. If you are literally telling me that you are okay and prepared to lose 37% of your sales due to this silly mistake, then I don't know what to tell you, because this is why I make these videos, is to make sure that you know exactly what you need to do to have not only a high converting set of email marketing flows, but also ensure that when you're creating these flows, they are actually working as intended. Super, super important. The same thing with like integration. So with us setting this up, you will see that we're actually using Shopify in this dummy account. You might be using another e-commerce platform like WooCommerce, for example, and it's important that you have the right integration set up. So the first thing is we want to select the right trigger. This is abandoned cart, so add it to cart. Once we do this, we want to add the right profile filters. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do what someone has or has not done, and it's going to be checkout started 0 times since starting this flow, and then it's going to be also what someone has or has not done. Then that is going to be placed order 0 times since starting this flow, and then the last one is going to be has not been in this flow, and then skip anyone who has been in this flow in the last 14 days. So we're going to do confirm and save, and we are all good to move on to the next stage, which is going to be adding a profile property update. Now, whenever it comes to building out flows, especially the highest converting flows, where we don't want to disrupt the user journey and the experience by having, campaigns going out, ideally what we want to do is just make sure that we have a tag to prevent these people from getting email campaigns as a priority over email flows, because the flows do the heavy lifting for us, and they are structured and tailored in such a way to strategically take that customer by the hand and hold them so that they can see every single email that benefits them to actually get them to convert to a customer. What we want to do is add that tag to that person's profile and let Klaviyo know that, hey, we want to actually send or prioritize the flow messaging compared compared to the campaign messaging for prospective customers. I know a lot of people talk about smart send and all that. This is the fail-safe way to do this, and just to make sure that you don't make a mistake or anything like that. So what we're going to do is add step and select the right properties, and it's going to be create new property, and we are going to just put abandoned cart flow, and then we will select text, and then the property value will be yes. So we'll save that, and then we're going to click close. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to have a time delay, and again, this depends on you, but ideally anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour and a half is where we tend to see the sweet spot to get people to get their first message if they've abandoned their cart. We're just going to do 1 hour here, and then what we want to do is start building out the emails. But before we do that, the way that I would recommend that you build out your abandoned cart flow again is on a case-by-case basis, and it depends on your brand. But ideally, you want to split it between new customers and returning customers, and later down the line, we're actually going to split it by high cart value versus low cart value, because we want to be a little bit strategic with the messaging and the offers that we are giving or not giving to new and returning customers. But before we do that, one thing I want to do is just go over the ideal structure when it comes to building out your abandoned cart flow. So more often than not, a lot of people feel that people abandoning their cart, especially business owners like yourself or CMO or a marketing director watching this, is that, oh, someone's abandoned their cart, oh my God, we have to give them a discount, otherwise they're not going to come back. Couldn't be further from the truth. When someone abandons their cart, it's because they are either requesting more information or they just simply got distracted. And it shouldn't be a case where you're resorting to sacrificing your margins and sacrificing your profit because you are running to try and give that person a discount. Instead, what we want to do is lead with value. So the very first email should just be an email that focuses on getting them to further down the funnel from abandoned cart to hopefully skipping abandoned checkout and just going straight to placing their order. Now, in order for them to do that in the first email, we want to keep it simple, keep it to the point, keep it structured. No crazy site navigation on the top of your email. No, hey, sign up for social media, or even trying to distract them from other products that they may or may not be interested in. No, cut the crap. We want to go straight to what it is that they abandoned in their cart and get them to place an order. So that is all you need in that email. You can include some customer reviews and testimonials that are specific to that brand. This is absolutely going to be the thing that is going to make all the difference for you having the highest possible chances of conversion. Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to address any objections. So typically what I would recommend is having like your FAQs, anything that you think is running through the mind of your prospective customer to try and get them to convert. And then the third email could be like a personal email from you, the founder, just giving a little bit more insight, making sure that they don't need any help, or it could be through a customer alias. There isn't like one structure or one size fits all for each brand. In this email, you might even want to use like USPs or use an us versus them angle to show that prospective customer what makes you different in comparison to your competitors. And that's essentially what you could use. Only then, after you've sent them around about 3 emails, would I then think, this person is just not biting. They're playing coy or something's up. And most likely at this point where I've addressed objections, I've shown social proof, I've even sent them a personalized email, I've shown them what makes us the best and superior option compared to everything that is out there. At this point, the only other thing that we could potentially offer them is an incentive to get them over the line. And that is what we would do here. And after that, if they're still not biting, I'll leave the rest towards the middle of this video because then it gets a little bit juicy. But for the most part, once we offer them that incentive, there are a couple of things that we can do to spice it up a little bit. What we're going to do, like I said, to split it between new customers and returning customers is we're going to add a conditional split. So what we want to do is click what someone has done, and we want to do placed order 0 times overall time, and we are going to save that. And now this is where it gets juicy because we are going to split this up, as I said, between returning customers and new customers. If they have placed an order and it's yes, then this side is essentially going to be the side where if they have placed an order before overall time, this is going to be a returning customer. And if they haven't, then they're going to the right hand side. So we're just going to put this here as well. So this side is going to be for new customers and this side is going to be for returning customers. And what we're going to do is we're just going to call this new customer email 1, and make sure that you obviously have the right subject lines, preview lines, select a template as well. email. So this template is obviously going to be your own specific emails. We'll just use this one as a demonstration. And then we're going to want to click save. Done. And then let's untick this. So once that's saved, that's all good. And then this one is going to be returning customers. Same thing, select your template and make sure to change the subject and preview lines, really, really important. And then I'm just going to change this so that rather than saying email 2, it says email 1. So there's no confusion. And then you can see here, one side is for new customers and the other side is for returning customers. So let's start with the new customers. The first email was sent an hour, then let's add another time delay. So we can have this time delay. I would set this to around about 15 hours. I've often found that anywhere between 12 to around about 20 hours gives enough gap for them to get that email again, to just kind of like remind them. Then the second email, I'm just going to duplicate this and we're going to call this email 2 and we're going to do 2 here. Just make sure that's unticked. Save. And then this email, as mentioned, this is the email that you can essentially have like your social proof or USPs, founder from message, but just making sure that you're sending people to kind of get back to their cart. So then the next thing is we're going to add another time delay. So just put that there. We'll just put 1 day. Then I'm going to clone this again. And all you have to do is just change the contents of the email as mentioned, and just make sure you change the subject line and whatnot. So we'll save that. So we get to the third email. When you're kind of like doing for returning customers, one thing that you want to remember is these guys are coming back and they're making a purchase because they know, like, and trust your brand. You do not need to start sacrificing margins. I am personally all about profitability when it comes to working with e-com brands, and I just absolutely detest and despise like just giving discounts away for the sake of it. It hurts margin, it cheapens and devalues your brand positioning, and it trains your customers to only purchase from you when you have a discount. Obviously, depends on what your goals are as a brand, but on this side, I would just try and focus on gentle nudges and a slight change when it comes to the time delays. So I'll go through that. I'll pause the video and then obviously by the time it comes back up, I'll walk through like the time delays I've set and why. So this is exactly what the returning customers section should look like. Essentially in the first email, just a gentle reminder. The second email would be just kind of reminding them of that social proof, especially with reviews. And then the third email can just be like some sort of personal email that can come from either yourself if you're a founder, or it can come from an alias like a customer happiness manager, if you will. And that person is just, again, using personalization to acknowledge that, hey, like, looks like you're returning. It's good to see you again. And then having that as a way to just say, hey, you know, typically like our stock sells out really quick. If that's the case, don't lie, don't fib. You want to make sure that whatever messaging you put aligns with your brand and is genuine. So have that in that email. What we're going to do now, which is really interesting, is that we are going to split this flow out for new customers where we're ready to give these guys a discount now because they just haven't taken us up on completing their purchase and going back to cart. So what we want to do now is we are going to add another time delay. So let me just clone this and then we're going to put the time delay right after they get that third email. We'll wait another day. We want to convert these guys ASAP. So there's no point of having like really long conversion windows with overly long abandoned cart flow sequences and whatnot. So we'll add that 1 day delay. So we're going to use the trigger split here. And here we want to do value is greater than 150. So again, case by case basis, guys, if you have products that are very expensive, you should know the average order value of your customers. And what I typically tend to do is I want to reward those that have a very high cart value. So you, as the owner of your brand, ask yourself, like, what is it that would be considered a high cart value? So let's just say that you sell jewelry and your average order value is about $75. So let's double that. That's kind of like a good percentage buffer to consider that as like, okay, this person is spending a lot because AOV is $75. So if they're prepared to spend double that, we want to reward this person as best as possible. So we are just going to save that and then close it. And on the left side, we are going to have your high cart value. I'm going to clone this and then I'm going to drag it here. I'm going to call this high cart value.
So if someone has spent $150, for example, and your AOV is $75, what we can do is we can essentially entice this person with a free gift with purchase. We want to really give a nice no-brainer incentive to this person, but not necessarily like ruin margins or overdo it, because they're adding a lot to cart, which shows that intent. So here, let's just say free gift with purchase, and we will save that. And we're going to duplicate this and do it on the other side, but the incentive is going to be a little bit different for this person. So that's going to be like low cart value. So if you sell stuff for like $30, it doesn't really make sense to be offering like $30 or $20 off. So we're going to add this to this side, and we are going to change this to a basic 10% off. Now that we have that, we are also going to add another time delay, and we will have the time delay set at 1 day, and then we're going to drag that here, and we're going to clone that again so we can do it on the other side, drag that over there. And for this high cart value person, we will send them a reminder email, and the same for this low cart person. And the only thing that's going to change later on is for this high cart value person, we really want to get them to that point where they are actually just sealing the deal, and it becomes like, okay, these guys are really going above and beyond here, let me actually place my order. And then we'll also do a reminder on that side as well, guys. Email 5 as well, just put low cart just so that you can see the difference. And we'll put that there. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna add another time delay on this side. The reason is because we wanna try and convert this customer, or these guys that are coming through this flow. And the best way for us to do that is to give them another kind of like last chance incentive. The reason we're not doing it on this side is because the value of the cart is really low, and I don't wanna ruin margins. You've got margin that we can play with on the high cart value side. Again, this is on a case-by-case basis, but hopefully as you're watching this, you're understanding like the decision-making process, how we're crafting the strategy so it makes sense for you. So on this side, we might actually just have an email for these guys that could be an offer like free delivery. Or if you are tight on margins and maybe you do split payments with platforms like Klarna or Affirm, what you can do is kind of use that as leverage. You could actually also use that higher up within the funnel where you're letting people know, hey, you can actually split the payment. So here, let's just go with free delivery, because that often tends to be the biggest issue. And we will label this as free delivery. And the steps that we're going to add is basically where we delete existing property, and the existing property that we will be deleting is the abandoned cart flow, just so that it matches what you have above. So it'll be abandoned cart flow, so it will delete that. What we want to do now is you want to make sure that these guys, like I said, on the low cart value and also returning customers, have their profile properties updated. Now to do this, we want to make sure that we are dragging this, holding it down and doing it here. It's super important that you do it here so that when they come here, they can have their profile property updated. And you also want to do the same thing here as well, and drag it here and also do it here like this. Super important. Also, don't forget to click review and turn on, and you want to set this to live. What we're going to do now is cover the abandoned checkout flow. This again is one of the highest converting email marketing flows that you can have within your email marketing infrastructure. So it's super important that you are treating this with the utmost care, and that goes as far as making sure you are selecting the right metrics and the right triggers in order for this to work as intended. Because a lot of people, I speak to 2 to 3 brands every single week, and a lot of the brands, 3 out of 4 brands, are always selecting the incorrect trigger in order for this flow to work as intended. So it's super important that we set this up, because if you go here, for example, and you click checkout, it doesn't even come up. Everything here in the Klaviyo templates is abandoned cart. So we're going to create this from scratch. Before we create this from scratch, what I want to do is actually go through the abandoned checkout process and the flow. If you've watched some of the videos around setting up an abandoned cart flow, they are kind of similar, but the only difference is that when you think about like the buying journey or the funnel for the customer, abandoned checkout is the closest thing to someone placing an order. And before abandoned checkout is abandoned cart. So with that in mind, someone has higher intent purchase, which it isn't always down to price that someone someone has not checked out. So what we want to do is we want to use the abandoned checkout to be a little bit more intentional with the messages that we send, and also sending the right offer at the right time just to seal the deal. The first email, you want to have this email where you are literally just trying to get them to check out. You want to try and send this email as soon as possible. You want to make sure that you also have social proof that is relevant to that specific product category that you have. You can actually have dynamic locks inside Klaviyo that tell Klaviyo, hey, if someone puts a weight loss product in their cart and they reach the checkout, show them weight loss only specific reviews and show them weight loss only specific testimonials. Just keeping it simple but not basic. But let's get into the other email. So the second email is just a little bit more of an aggressive nudge, and then the third email is where you can offer an incentive. Now with the abandoned cart setup that we had before, we were waiting a little bit. With abandoned checkout, we just want to try and convert this person as best as possible, but we're not going to sacrifice margins by just giving them any odd discount. So this is where things like split testing and making sure that the offer that you have actually resonates and the offer that you're using doesn't hurt profitability and margins, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day. So we're going to name this abandoned checkout. We'll use a unique identifier like DS. Those are my initials, in case there are multiple people inside your Klaviyo photo, and then we'll put pre-purchase. Doing this is going to keep things super organized. Now that we've got this, we want to select a trigger. We're going to click checkout started. We want to add and then profile property, and then we want to add the flow filter, what someone has or hasn't done, and then we're going to do placed order. We're going to make sure this is 0 times since starting this flow, and then we're going to also do and has not been in this flow. Skip anyone who has been in this flow in the last, typically we would want to put 14 days. So we'll just save that and confirm and save. Now what we want to do is we want to have a tag, and the profile property update is crucial. Essentially what we want to do is make sure that we are prioritizing all messaging inside this specific flow versus sending someone like a campaign. And the best way to do that is essentially just create a tag that tells Klaviyo, hey, if someone has this tag, do not send them a campaign. I want to prioritize having them go through this flow because the messaging is super targeted. So in order for us to do that, we need to actually create a new property, and property label will be active abandoned checkout flow. We'll click text, and the property value would be yes. So let's just save that. Then we need to strike whilst the iron is hot. This person has essentially hit checkout. We just need them to place an order. So there's no messing around. In order to do that, I would say pick anything between 30 minutes to an hour. Let's do 45 minutes. Then we want to have a conditional split, and we want to say anyone that has placed an order 0 times overall time, and then we're going to save. And the idea is that with this conditional split, if the customer is new or is returning, that's what we want to do to really take this to the next level, because the messaging for abandoned checkout for a new customer is going to be completely different to a returning customer. And the idea is that we don't want to get to a point where offering discounts left, right, and center. So what we're going to do is essentially on the right hand side, so where it says no, this essentially is going to be for returning customers, and we'll make that super clear. And then we'll do new customers on the left hand side. So the first email, we are just going to put returning customers, and we will select our template. We're just going to use this for demonstrational purposes so you know what's going on. Obviously make sure this matters for your brand. We'll do this one, and then we are going to click save. And we're going to make sure that this is unchecked. Then we are going to duplicate this, and we're going to do new customer. Hopefully that should save. Then we move that to that side. So for returning customers, we don't want to annoy these guys because these guys know, like, and trust you. They're close to checkout. So when it comes to times, we can just do something as simple as 20. Let's just go for 20. Just remember to drag this here. And then on this side, we will do the exact same thing, and we'll drag that to this side. And then again here, I just want to remind these guys, I don't want to ruin profitability by offering unnecessary discounts when it's really not needed. So this is the second message that I'm going to send them. And that's it for those returning customers. New customers, on the other hand, we're going to switch it up a little bit. We're going to have the second email for these guys. So I'm just going to clone this and then put that under there, change that to new customer, and make sure that is labeled as email subject to. And then this is where it gets juicy, because what we want to do is, right, these guys that are at this stage of the funnel where they've reached the checkout, we don't want to waste time. We want to strike whilst the iron is not even just hot, is burning. Because what we want to do at this point is we want to split this out by whether the cart value is high or whether the cart value is low. Now, that split is going to be your trigger split. Don't pick conditional split. So value is greater than 150. So make sure this makes sense for your brand. You have to make sure that you are factoring stuff like, what is your average order value? So if you're a t-shirt brand and your average order value is around about $75, what you want to do is make sure that the average order value is set a little bit higher to determine that as kind of like your high cart value. So in this instance, $150 means that this customer is prepared to spend double, or at least they've added double the average order value. So this makes sense. So we'll have that. Make sure to select the type as number as well. The next thing we want to do is we want to put the emails on this side as well. And we want to split this between high and low cart value. So on the left side, we are going to be putting the high cart value. And with the high cart value, I have always found with e-commerce brands is that you want to have an offer that is really going to push them over the edge. So you should always split test this. But I would say you can test anything from free delivery to, 10% off or a free gift with purchase. Let's just do free delivery. And you can be creative with this, and you should actually look at what offers convert, whether it makes sense, whether the margins stack up. We're just going to have high cart value and then low cart value on the right hand side. So I'm just going to change this to low cart value. And for this, let's do free delivery. So then again, we're going to add a time delay as well. And I'm going to drag this here. So we're going to set this to a day. And the reason why is these guys are at checkout. We haven't got time to be pissing about. We need to get these guys to convert. Then we're going to have another email. That email is going to go here. This second email that we're going to send, look, if they haven't pulled the trigger at this point, we need to switch up the offer because we need to try and get these people to convert. And again, it can just be the same value offer, but repositioned and repackaged in a way where it's seen as valuable to the customer. So 10% off could be as good as free delivery for your brand because the margins are literally almost the same, if not identical. So here we would say something like free delivery. So for this side, we want to duplicate this as well and just have another time delay. But in this instance, we are not really going to be offering anything more because they haven't really got that much in their cart. So the margins might not make sense. So this is just going to be our reminder, and that's going to be our email for. And we're just going to drag that here. So you've got high cart value on the left-hand side and you've got low cart value on the right-hand side. And as I mentioned to you before, with the low cart value, we are just giving these guys a simple reminder. As you can see here, this says reminder, and we're not doing anything more with these guys. However, these guys on the left-hand side, we are going to switch up the offer, and make sure you switch up the offer where it makes sense. We don't want the offer to be astronomically high where you're not even profitable on that purchase. Now, the last thing that we're going to want to do is update the profile property. Now with that, remember how we set up a tag to make sure that people were getting the abandoned checkout as a priority? Well, what we want to do is we actually want to delete that so that they can start receiving emails. So we are going to change that to abandoned checkout flow, and we're going to click save. Now what we want to do is we want to make sure that these people, so low cart value, new customers, and also returning customers on this end, we want to kind of tie up loose ends. And what we want to do is click this, hold it down, and make sure you drag it in the middle. Do not drag it at the bottom. It has to be in the middle. And the same for here. Drag this and make sure you drag it in the middle. And that is it. It is a wrap. Just make sure that when you are finished, you click review, you turn this on, you make sure you set this to live, and you are absolutely good to go. We are covering the browse abandonment flow. This is again another insanely potent, high converting flow that you should absolutely 1000% have within your email marketing infrastructure. And the idea is that when somebody has come on your website and they have browsed a specific product, you want to kind of retarget that person to get them further down the funnel to then get them to convert. The good thing about this is when you are setting up this flow, you can be really intentional with what kind of information you want to include to try and get this person to convert. Ideally, when you're setting up this flow, you don't want to be creepy where it's like, hey, we saw you checking us out. I personally don't like stuff like that. Prospective customers and just people in general have become way more savvy, way more sophisticated, and way more aware. So it's important to treat your customers with that respect and that thought process in mind. When we are setting up the browse abandonment flows, I always say build it from scratch so you know exactly what to do. So what we want to do is just have browse abandonment flow. Then we will set up a unique identifier, which your initials are fine, and then pre-purchase as well. So we'll just click create flow. So the first thing we want to do is set up the trigger, and what we're going to want to do is we're going to go for viewed products, and then we want to change the profile filter properties. We want to do what someone has or hasn't done. Then we're going to go for checkout started 0 times since starting this flow, and also want to make sure that they've placed orders 0 times since starting this flow and has not been in this flow in the last 14 days. And we also want to make sure that they have not tried to add to cart as well. 0 times since starting this flow. And we can just click save. This flow should really just be about getting them to the next step of the funnel and also just giving them a little bit of a nudge. We don't want to do anything too crazy. So the ideal structure is essentially just the first email, which just gives them a little bit of a push, just a gentle nudge. It doesn't need to be anything stalkerish or creepy, and it can just be a nudge that also includes reviews that are dynamic specifically to that product that they have browsed and then left to go about their day. Then the second email can be as simple as social proof, and then that can just be like in the form of media publications, it can be testimonials, and pretty much that's where I would leave it. Obviously there are more advanced ways that you can build out the browse abandonment flow, but for the most part this flow really is just to provide social proof, give them a little bit of a nudge, and hopefully have them go further down within the funnel. So we're just going to save this, confirm and save, and we just want to have a time delay that doesn't feel like weird, it doesn't feel stalkerish. So I would say anything between 2 to 4 hours. We'll go for 3 hours. We will just click save and then close, and then we'll have another email that is basically the email, we'll call it getting them back into the funnel. We will leave this as that. We will select the right template. We'll just use that one and we'll save it. What we also want to do is just make sure that we untick this and then save. And then what we can do is we can add another time delay. I would personally set this to 1 to 2 days, and we'll save this and then just give another email. So we'll just duplicate this and we are gonna call this email 2. And in this email, this is where we can put stuff like social proof, reviews, media publications. So we'll just change this around. Now, if you wanted to go a step further, you could probably have one email that is kind of like an us versus them comparison. But for the most part, this is more than sufficient for you to get the message across. What you want to do when you have all of this dialed in is you want to make sure that you are clicking review and you're turning this flow on. The post-purchase flow. This one is super important because a lot of people feel that a post-purchase flow is just, hey, thanks for making a purchase, and then they leave it as that. That isn't what the post-purchase flow is all about. The post-purchase flow is supposed to reduce buyer's remorse. It's supposed to educate your customers. It's supposed to ensure that there's an incentive for them to come back and purchase, but not only come back and purchase, but come back and purchase within a shorter time period so you can actually get that amount that you spent to acquire them back quicker. You also want to make sure that they are enjoying the products and you are trying, or at least the aim should be to turn that customer into a super fan. So what we're going to do is we are going to build this out from scratch, and this is just going to be a very simplified version, an effective version of the post-purchase flow, and we're going to focus on a few things such as returning customers versus new customers, and then also we want to focus on what the incentive is going to look like and what the structure will look like as well. So we will set that up just now. So we're going to do the naming for this, and we're going to call this post-purchase for first and second buyers. A unique identifier, as always, just your initials is fine, and then post-purchase is Cool. Next, what we want to do is we want to set up the trigger. We want to do placed order, and that's it. We don't need to change anything. Just have it as placed order, confirm, and save. Now, if we really want to kind of like just play it safe, we can also make sure that this person has not cancelled since entering this flow, because sometimes people, you know, they kept buyer's remorse before they even get in this flow. And what we want to do is to make sure that they haven't cancelled, or they might be in the flow and then a couple of days after they decide to get their order refunded. So what we want to do is have this person has cancelled order 0 times since starting this flow. This is just kind of like as a fail safe. So we'll save that. And then what we will do is start adding some emails. So we're going to start with a time delay. This, we're going to set it to a day. If you want to be a little bit specific, you can have specific time of the day. Don't guess. Look what the data is saying on the back end where your customers are most likely to open your emails. And then we're just going to put that there and then click save. Then we are going to have a conditional split, and the conditional split is going to say has placed order equals 1 overall time, and then we're going to save that. Then we're going to close, and then we've got 2 paths here, yes and no. On the left hand side, we're going to focus on that being specifically for new customers, and then on the right hand side, that's going to be for anyone that has purchased more than once overall time. So then we're going to add this email, and the first email that we are going to want to do is basically just thanking the customer. And this is super important because we want to get them on a buzz, we want to get them on a high, we want to reduce buyer's remorse, and we want to do this by just sending a simple thank you. Some people create like separate email flows just for like customer thank you. I personally like to have a more robust and comprehensive post-purchase flow as a whole, so it's not just focused on just a thank you email. We will obviously change subject line and preview line, so you can change that to what makes sense for your brand. And then for this, we are just gonna select anything just for demonstrational purposes. We'll just click that one. That looks good, or it looks not bad. Once we've got that set up, we just want to click save, and this is just going to be basic thank you. Done. Now this email, I would highly recommend that this comes from either the founder or an alias like a customer experience manager, so that it feels really authentic, really genuine. And then the second one is literally going to be the same on the other side, which is basically the side for returning customers. So let me actually label this as returning customers, and then we'll call this thank you, and we'll move that there. And just to keep things neat, we'll actually put this as new customer as well. Next thing we want to do is we actually want to add additional emails, especially on the new customer side. So a few of the emails that we can have, an ideal reference and structure would be that email that reduces buyer's remorse, whether it's from the founder, as I said, or an alias, making sure that they feel like they've made a good decision. Then you may actually want to share reviews again. And this is an important one because a lot of people think that you should only share reviews pre-purchase, so when someone hasn't actually made a purchase. But what I've often found really effective with a lot of brands that I've personally worked with is actually having reviews to, again, hype that person up, because at the end of the day, they have just made an investment into your brand. They don't know you at all, and because again, they're a new customer. So with that, we can keep it really chill and really casual, where I'm just going to duplicate this and then we can just use it here. We'll also duplicate this and we'll have that email there, and we'll just call this email 2. And then the other kind of emails you can have are educational emails on how to use your product. So if you've got like a YouTube channel, for example, you might want to direct people to YouTube. If you're good at making GIFs, you can create specific GIFs within your email to have like step-by-step on exactly how to use it. Just kind of thinking about buyer's remorse and not having people feel like they regret the product. But this will probably come once they have the product, so you want to give it a few days before you actually have that email. Another one is to follow you on social media channels. Try and be creative with this rather than follow us on Instagram. Like, you have to give people a reason to follow you and have to think to yourself, well, what's in it for them? Super important. But figure out what emails you want specifically in your post-purchase flow and then include them here. For now, I'm just going to leave it like this, but make sure that you include the ones that are relevant. And then on this side, you're probably thinking, what can I do for returning customers? So for returning customers, this needs to be a little bit more of a heartfelt letter / memo, if you will. And the idea, without sounding corny, is you really want to acknowledge the fact that a customer has come back and made a purchase from you, and you want to make that abundantly clear. And it's super important that you let them know about this. You may want to have probably not like a discount. You may want to introduce or invite them into a membership, a loyalty program. You might want to introduce them to being a VIP, and maybe you could also invite any feedback that they may have. So what I'm going to do is just create another delay, and for these guys we could probably have like 7 days where we include it on this side, and then we would also send them a second email, and then do 2, save. We're going to move that to that side. And essentially, this is what we would do. You want to try and make sure that you are taking into consideration stuff like your shipping, your logistics. You want to tailor these flows specifically to your buying journey for your customers. And as always, you want to click review, turn on, make sure this action status is live, and you are good to go. This is the site abandonment flow that we're going to be focusing on building out. Now, this is one of those flows that you are not going to find in the Klaviyo library when it comes to building out flows, which is why, again, as I keep saying, I'm a big believer of building out these flows from scratch. You're probably wondering by now, well, what is a site abandonment flow? To put it quite simply, let's say someone lands on your website and they don't even click on any products. They just land on the website. Maybe they give it a scroll up, maybe they give it a scroll down, but they haven't quite done anything when it comes to moving further down your purchase funnel. So they haven't added to cart, they haven't abandoned the checkout. What they're simply doing is going on your website and they're showing some sort of interest. And what you want to use the site abandonment flow to do is to retarget them on the back end. The only way that this flow will trigger is if this person has actually consented to you, obviously one, emailing them, and it goes without saying that they have actually willingly provided their email address. That's the only way that this flow is going to work. The thing with when someone lands on your website and they decide to just come off, especially if you're a brand that has several different options, like different SKUs, different product categories, is that they are probably overwhelmed. And this is the good thing with the site abandonment flow, where you can use this as a way to retarget these prospective customers and lead them further down the funnel so that they can then convert into a customer. So a couple of things that you can have within this site abandonment flow is really breaking out the core product categories or the SKUs that you have for your brand. So you're then able to lead people down the right direction. So you could have like a quiz. So let's say that you were a supplement brand and you sell products for fat loss and weight loss, and you also sell products for building muscle. With this quiz, by saying, hey, you may be a little bit overwhelmed, take this very short 60-second quiz and it's gonna lead you down the best products that are most suitable to help you achieve your goals. And this is exactly why this flow is so powerful. This flow is super easy, and I would probably say the first email should just be breaking down product categories and leading them in the right direction. And then the second one, if you have a quiz, you could get them to take the quiz. So we're just gonna click create from scratch, and we are going to call this site abandon. Again, we want to have a unique identifier, and then pre-purchase, and then click create flow. The next thing we want to do is just select the right trigger. This is super, super important. And what we're going to do is we're going to click here, select the right trigger, and we are going to go to your metrics, click API, and you should see active on site. So this is what you want to select. Then you want to go to profile filter and you want to click add, and then we're going to add flow filter, and you're going to do what someone has done or not done. And in this case, we want to say that this person has viewed the product, so we put that in there, and we're going to say 0 times since starting this flow, and we want to make sure that this person has also not added to cart, so we're going to select added to cart, and then 0 times since starting this flow, and then we're going to also add checkout started 0 times since starting this flow, and then we've got placed order also 0 times since starting this flow, and last but not least, we are going to have has not been in this flow at any time. Perfect. And then we click save and confirm and save as well, just as like a final step. Now that we've got that out of the way, we want to start focusing on adding a time delay. Now, we don't want to be weird, so just keep it normal. And I would say, based on testing that I've personally done for around 106 brands, I'll say you want to keep this to round about 1 to 2 hours. So we can just go with, let's just go with 2 hours. That is a decent enough time. Again, everything that is being shared on this video, make sure it applies to your brand. The next thing is to add the email. So the email, we're going to name this as options and categories. That's going to be the first email that we're going to have. Subject line is there, and then we're going to select a template as well. We're just going to use any template here, just using this for demonstrational purposes, and then we just click save. Then we will click done, and then you will untick this and then just click save. Then, as mentioned, if you do have like a quiz or something to kind of just push that person further down the funnel, so we're just going to cancel this, you can create another time delay, and we'll just put this underneath, and then let's set this to round about a day. So after a day, we are going to send another email, and that email is essentially going to be the quiz email that's going to give people a little insight into maybe potential products that would suit their specific goals and the benefits that they're looking for. So we will change this to quiz, and obviously make sure that the subject line and preview lines are relevant, and make sure to use the right email. And that is pretty much it. That is the site abandon flow. As mentioned, super simple flow. What you want to do just to make sure everything's all good, just click review and turn on, and just click this turn on button.
And look, you can take everything that we've discussed today on this video and implement it directly for your brand, starting as soon as today, and you'll probably see results. But there are a lot of steps, there are a lot of nuances, things that you have to apply to make this work specifically for your brand. And those are things like A/B testing, segmentation, making sure that you factor in the conversion window for your brand, because at the end of the day, every single brand is different, and my job is to teach the principles and the foundations so that you can implement. But if you're anything like me and you really value your time, and you know deep down in your heart you did not start your business to start setting up email flows or sending campaigns or any of that stuff, and you really want to focus on the high impact areas of the business that you actually enjoy, that you are actually great at, then I would highly recommend that you join myself on a free complimentary one-to-one workshop session. I host 5 of these every single month, and these spots fill up extremely quickly because of the value that I myself personally provide. Now, on the workshop session, this is exactly what is going to happen. We are going to identify every single bottleneck that is stopping you from achieving the absolute best potential and ROI for your email marketing infrastructure that you are just absolutely missing out on. Then once we've identified those bottlenecks, I will show you exactly what you need to do step by step to optimize and restructure your current email marketing program and your strategy. Then, remember I said I have personally worked with 106 e-commerce brands. Chances are I've worked with a brand that is in your niche, and chances are that I'm currently working with a brand that is in your niche. So what I'm gonna do is tell you exactly what is working in your niche so that you can go ahead and apply it as soon as after we get off that workshop session. And I'm gonna give you a report that breaks down everything with a video walkthrough so you know exactly how to implement this for yourself. Or if you value your time, my team and I can just take this completely off your hand and deal with everything from copy to design to strategy to technical implementation, so you can focus on other high impact areas of the business. Also, click on this video over here that shows you the exact mistakes that are costing you and ruining your e-commerce brand, so that you know exactly what you need to do to make sure you don't run it to the ground. I'll catch you in the next one.